Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillah rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum and very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside the very amazing Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever we come right in front of you, there's always a motive and agenda which we need to fulfill. And believe me, that agenda and motive is always in a very positive manner and a positive sense, because we definitely want each and every human out there to be successful, to be prosperous, and to be worthy of his own self as well. Because as a matter of fact, I think that the only thing which can fulfill or give you peace is contentment and resolve. Hello,
Absolutely.
how are you?
I'm absolutely great. What about you, Shahzad?
I think I'm absolutely perfect, full of content, yes.
That is absolutely great. And I love, how you started our morning. I'm so sorry I said that. But, I feel like when you're talking about success, it really matters what you mean by success,
Yes.
right? And you very rightly said that it all, towards the end comes to contentment and satisfaction. Does not matter how much money you make or where you are, you're
does a
probably
little,
standing.
but
Of course it
it's
does. I do
probably
agree with that. Of
right,
course it does. Or you're standing at all, or, your interactions with people,
Yeah.
your connections and everything. It does matter at some point, yes. But
Yes.
towards the end, it's all about satisfaction, right? If you're not satisfied with all of that you already have or have been blessed with, what you going to do?
Exactly. And just recently, ladies and gentlemen, I actually had to sell my sports bike off
Oh.
because I actually ventured into having a newer car. Shukr alhamdulillah that Allah has actually bestowed upon me a lot of blessings. So, there was just one thing which I realized, and I think that I'm going to apply that in my life on daily basis as well, and that is that till the time I actually had that sports bike, and I've always dreamt of having a sports bike in my life. Eventually, I got it, alhamdulillah, I was able to do it.
Yeah.
And now when it's not there, so there's one thing which actually hurts me a little, and that is that the time when I had it, I didn't enjoy it that much as well. So I think that these are there can be so many different situations in this perspective too as well. For example, enjoying your own kids, your family members while they're around. And then
Yes,
eventually when everybody grows up, they have their own things to do. I think that's the time when parents feel it the most as well, that they might not have enjoyed. But then obviously it cannot go down or have a domino effect onto the kids. But other than that, Shiza, in today's world,
Yeah.
it's majority of the time all about statistics, calculations,
Right.
and then taking calculated risk and analyzing your, or probably, doing your SWOT analysis where you talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah.
So pretty much life is more about science these days.
It is, definitely it is. And I feel like this was yesterday, right? We were talking about how science is also sort of, in coordination with our religion too.
Exactly.
Whatever science, the discoveries that are being made right now, our religion has been telling us almost those things for like hundreds and thousands of years ago. And that is absolutely, inspiring to look at, of course, and at some point confusing as well. But before we move on with that, Shahzad, I want to build up on something that you already mentioned.
And before you build up on that as well, one of the very simplest examples, ladies and gentlemen, where we even want to talk about science and incorporate, it has always been a part. For example, when we talk about Pharaoh himself as well, I think that it's very clearly stated within Quran as well. And I think that for people who've lived till now, eventually know that where to actually go and look for the remains of the Pharaoh.
Right,
So I think all of these things have been there, but then eventually it is for us humans to go and probably put them to test, because I think it should be Muslims. And even yesterday, Dr. Saab said that, because it was for us, so we never did the research, other people did the research, where in the first place it should have been us.
Right, that is so true. Now we're totally off topic of what I was going to say, so I feel
No,
like...
but still.
Okay, so you said, I love when you said that, you should definitely cherish the people around you as long as they are around you,
Yeah.
You shouldn't regret afterwards.
Exactly.
Which, really made me miss my grandparents. I was really little when they were around. That was like the best time of my life. I cannot even begin to explain.
Exactly.
But I can't say I regret it now because I can't do anything to bring them back, right? I really hope that they're having the best of their afterlife. But, celebrate them, cherish them as long as they are with you. Anyone, not only grandparents, anyone and anything.
Exactly, this is very important as well. But ladies and gentlemen, getting back to the point where we are going to talk about science and religion.
Yeah.
And to, do the honors, ladies and gentlemen, the only apt guest we were able to get our hands on is the most deserving, none other than Dr. Yousuf Raza. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam, good morning to you.
كيف حال؟
Alhamdulillah wa ant.
وين سير؟ In survival? No. Okay, so that's the little Arabic I knew, but it's perfectly all right. So let's continue from where we stopped.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
stopped at where I was actually trying to confuse Chiza into what we get bombarded with and the information we get, and then
Yes.
eventually it becomes a part of our life. How do we avoid that?
Right, so we get these apparent 180-degree perspectives, one going in this direction, one going in this direction, with science asserting, or scientists asserting for that matter, that the only reliable source of knowledge, of truth that you can get is from them, from their sources, observable reality, objective reality, experimentally reproducible, etc., etc. And then there is the religious mindset asserting that the only reliable source of truth that you can possibly get is from revelation,
Right.
and no other, right? So necessarily there is going to be a conflict.
yes.
So whatever truth they're talking about and whatever truth this segment is talking about, whenever there is a difference between them, then there will be no we are right because we are based in these sources. There's like, no, we're right because we're based in revelation, and so on and on and on and on. When we're quoting revelation to a scientist who doesn't believe in it, it amounts to nothing, right? That's not evidence for him or her. To bring that as evidence, that doesn't make sense. Similarly, to a religious person, presenting scientific evidence as an evidence of truth, you cannot have a conversation. And unless and until you can have a conversation, all of those aspects that are conflicting, that are in opposition, you cannot reconcile them. You cannot, in the minds of the people who are confused, perplexed, the general lay public, how are you supposed to address their issues?
So
But
then I
sometimes
think,
I'm so sorry. Sometimes they do even have common grounds, right? I mean, it's not always a conflict, right?
Right. So whenever they do have common ground, is vastly overshadowed by the conflicts, because typically you would find that one is very militantly opposed to the other, especially the more loud ones. For instance, if you're at a university, you're presenting a scientific paper, you cannot call in your religious biases, you cannot call in your religious scripture, you cannot quote that as an evidence of establishing ground. It would not be considered relevant at all, or it'll be completely unscientific.
Okay,
to
so
do
then
such
I
thing.
think that what we need to get started from, sorry that I actually have to bring the conversation to the scratch, and that is, unfortunately, this is what happens, that we are unable to find the common grounds. Now, for the future generations, how do you think that we really need to nurture or nourish their brain in a way where they accept science and religion go hand in hand?
See, one of the greatest blessings of being Pakistani, and in light of that, the greatest tragedy, is that one of our founding fathers is Allama Iqbal. The way that personality, the way that philosopher, the way that mystic, the way that scientist that he was, the poet and philosopher that he was, the way he laid out a framework of how the two can not only meet but be mutually fruitful to each other, we're completely ignorant of as a nation, even as intellectuals. And that's where we have betrayed him, incredibly betrayed him. That what Allama Iqbal laid down for the Muslim of the future, for the young Muslims, in his philosophy, in his poetry, we are completely oblivious
He was
of.
way too ahead of his time, I feel.
And now that that time has come, we're so ignorant of him.
Right.
Right? So that, again, it's you feel blessed, but then you feel embarrassed.
Right.
That you had him and you didn't really make the most of him, and that's the way for the future.
Exactly.
If
Right, but
anything,
we didn't make most of him. But then again, I mean, never too late, right? We can right now carry on with the legacy.
So just taking a page out of his book, how Allama Iqbal read the Quran, how he represented this thought. Allama says in his reconstruction that the birth of Islam is the birth of inductive logic, which is the basis of science. Right? And you find repetitive mention within the Quran. I'm just going to share an excerpt from Surah Jathiyah.
Yes, please go ahead.
The surah begins, Bismillah, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Hamim, Tanzilul Kitabi min Allahil Aziz al Hakim. That the gradual revelation of this book is from Allah, who is all powerful and all wise.
Yeah.
Right? We're not going to go into the depth of that just yet, but what does it say afterwards? Inna fis samawati wal ardi la ayatin lil mu'minin. Definitely in the heavens, in the skies and the earth are ayat for people who have this attitude of believing, for people inclined towards belief.
Right.
Again, what word is used for that which is in the heavens and the earth? Ayat.
Okay.
What is the verse of the Quran called? Ayat.
Yeah.
So you see.
So all of them.
So what this is the physical universe we're talking about.
All right.
This is the object of study of physics.
Yeah.
Moving right along, وَفِي خَلْقِكُمْ, in your creation, addressing human beings.
Yeah.
In our creation, what is that the subject of? Biology.
Yeah.
وَمَا يَبُثُ مِن دَابَّةٍ آيَاتٌ لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. And whatever of creatures that have been spread out on the land, there are ayats for the community looking to be convinced.
Yeah.
For a
Okay.
community of people who are looking to be, again, object of study, physics. What is the term the Quran uses? Ayat. The one that it uses for itself.
Right, right.
So when we said that there is a science group saying that this is our source, and according to our source, we're the only true representatives of knowledge.
Right.
And then the religious people coming in, no, revelation is our source, and that's the only. Here we see revelation itself giving credit, validation, and what would be called an epistemological dignity, saying that this is valid truth.
Yeah.
To scientific objects of study. That what you get from there is no less than an ayat of Allah, meaning a sign through which He is known,
Right.
through which you will know Him better. So there, again, this is something we spoke about yesterday as well.
It's an
Wherever
interesting
it
point.
comes from,
Yeah.
be it Jewish, Christian, atheist, if it is an ayat of Allah, it is talking about Him.
Yeah.
And if you are leaving out a portion of Allah's ayat, then you don't understand Him completely.
So okay, bear with me over here. I might be a little slower on understanding this. So what we're trying to say over here is that whatever the research entails, whatever the outcomes of the research are, we are referring to them as ayat as well.
So what the Quran offers is ayat,
Yeah.
biology, physics, and in the next ayah,
The
and
findings so
intimation
far.
is the findings. It's towards psychology as well. Generally, other sciences, broadly science, they have ayat as well.
Okay.
Necessarily, ayat require interpretation.
Yeah.
Right? So just like when you're sitting in front of Quranic ayat, the interpreter will tell you how he reads those ayat, and from that you try to get an understanding. So the
Okay.
phenomena of science as well requires scientific interpretation.
For example, H2O is water, or CO2, or things like that. These
Right.
chemical
CO2
formulas.
is what?
Yes. Yeah.
CO2 is what?
See, carbon dioxide,
Yeah,
probably.
good,
Yes,
good.
that's what it is. Yeah. Wow, come on. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
So yeah, so these being means and ways of understanding attributes of Allah.
Right.
When one community decides that one segment of Allah's ayat are not His ayat,
Okay.
are not valid source of knowledge,
Okay.
and then says that they are presenting the final understanding of who God is, that's precisely what the people of Makkah did to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's precisely what the Jewish communities in Medina they did to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, saying, we already have what we needed to know. Whatever you're bringing, we're in no need of that.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're repeating that. And so the ayats conclude this particular passage. Obviously, the entire surah is incredibly amazing on this topic. I'm skipping one ayah, and then Allah says, "Tilka ayatullahi natluha alayka bilhaq." These are the ayat of Allah that we are reciting upon you with truth, with purpose, with meaning. So in this particular context, the Quran is the qari, and the ayat in the physical universe of science are the ayat that are being recited.
All right.
Okay.
And to the human being, to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and through him to us. فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Now, which narrative, which hadith, what are they going to believe in after Allah and His ayat that have been sent? That you're going to reject all of this and still think that what you understand is God? No.
No.
He's much greater than that.
Amazing.
Okay, Dr. Yusuf, you know what? There's actually, to me, there's sort
Wonderful.
of another, comprehension of it as well. You said that until and unless you don't study, I'm not saying believe or say yes or no, until and unless you don't study and explore all the vistas of knowledge that have been given to us, you can't say your education is complete or your belief is complete, right? Which actually says that our religion even sort of compels us to study science along with the religion and study other religions along with our religion as well, right?
Definitely, because all of that are going to be avenues from where wisdom is going to come and reinforce and reconcile itself. Similarly, again, building into what we spoke about yesterday, when we go towards those scientific phenomena, and we spoke about the conditions within the university, a lot of the people who do that, they actually become averse to religion.
Yeah.
Okay.
They actually get turned away from religion. And we built an historical background as to how that's possible. So just like there is a popular religious attitude which is averse to science, or very simplistic when it comes to science, or wants to dictate to science, there is also a popular scientific attitude that has the same
Drifts away from the
treatment of religion. And just like we saw in Allama Iqbal's understanding and what Surah Jathiyah represents, and there's multiple evidence from the couplets of Iqbal in his reconstruction when he talks about it, a representation of religion which is not only open to science, it confirms, affirms, gives it dignity, looks to learn from it.
Okay.
Just like that within the scientific paradigm and scientific world as well, there are thinkers, there are scientists, philosophers who affirm religious truth as well through scientific validation.
Amazing. And for that, obviously, one needs to study that as well. But before we wrap up the segment, there's this one simple thing which I wanted to ask.
Okay.
And I believe and I think that, that if our parents and everybody out there who's actually trying to educate their children about the religion itself, I think that this needs to be the first pillar in understanding. And that is that I believe that you cannot actually have faith in something if you cannot ask questions about it. Is that correct? Because half of the time there are people who say, oh, don't ask questions, this is what it is. And so how do you think that, what words will you utter now, which is actually going to change the perception of all of those parents who are out there? Please talk to them.
Your children are going to have questions. If you're not ready for those questions, they're not going to have faith.
Yeah.
Wow.
You may have had it, but for our next generation, it is not going to be possible. So we spoke about the future of Muslims and the vision that we're supposed to have. We want to look for these resources within religion. We want to look for these resources within science and get to the highest level of intellectual achievement. And then look to relate and see then what fruits we can give the world.
Exactly.
Wow. So here's the thing. I'm so sorry, but I have sort of information.
Sure, go ahead.
So, well, there was a research, in areas in the world where there were extremist organizations developing, and some of them, whoever claimed, were, related to or came from madrasas. It was proven that they did not receive full 8 years of education of madrasa. They were either dropped out, which clearly means if they did study full religion, 8 full years of madrasa, they would never opt out to be an extremist, right?
It actually, some of those researchers suggest that the extremist organizations do not recruit from madrasas as much as they recruit from universities.
Oh, hey.
Engineering students are actually more
prone
highlighted.
Okay.
Because they are more likely to be given a very, very superficial reading, and that necessarily tends to be more extremist, more absolutist,
and then
more
and then I think all of these people whom they're going to hire will have more technical skills as well, which they might require. But thankfully, alhamdulillah, we're out of that state too as well, thanks to our armed forces as well. But towards the end, just one simple thing which I wanted to request to you, and that is that since it's Ramadan, so everybody wants to read a few ayahs from Quran too as well. And whenever you read an ayah, your pronunciation is so impeccable that I actually want you to recite a few ayahs for all of us today as well.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. So whatever you want to recite, please go ahead.
All right. So I guess I'll recite from Surat Najm, one of my favorite surahs and one that I find easy to recite.
Sure, go ahead.
I hope I still remember most of the ayahs. But okay.
Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى عَلَّمَهُ شَدِيدُ الْقُوَى ذُو مِرَّةٍ فَاسْتَوَى وَهُوَ بِالْأُفُقِ الْأَعْلَى ثُمَّ دَنَا فَتَدَلَّى فَكَانَ قَابَ قَوْسَيْنِ أَوْ أَدْنَى فَأَوْحَى إِلَى عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى مَا كَذَبَ الْفُؤَادُ مَا رَأَى أفتمارونه على ما يرى ولقد رآه نزلة أخرى عند سدرة المنتهى عندها جنة المأوى إذ يغشى السدرة ما يغشى ما زاغ البصر وما طغى لقد رأى من آيات ربه الكبرى.
And you know, there was a reason why I actually wanted you to recite. So now, ladies and gentlemen, this is one thing which I want to change.
Yeah.
Now, after listening to the recitation of the Holy Quran, what did you get out of it? Did you even understand? But there was this feeling
serenity
that you know, okay, something is actually being recited from our holy book. That's it. So I'm not going to leave you, you know, just like that. So you actually have to let us know the gist of the surah so that we have a deeper understanding. That's what I wanted.
So this is Surah Najm, and this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam's journey of Mi'raj, when he had that conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is being depicted in these incredibly beautiful ayat. And there's a lot of lessons there, but one that I would pick out, that there's the one ayah where Allah says, مَا زَاغَ الْبَصَرُ وَمَا طَغَى, that when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was at that level and having that conversation with Allah, his eyes, his gaze did not swerve, nor did it go out of bounds. See, when we're relating with each other as human beings, as people, in conversation and communication, in relationships, whatever the case may be, either the norm would be that we are intimidated, overwhelmed by the other person, or we seek to dominate. Right? But that's a sign that our individualities have not been sufficiently developed, what Allama Iqbal calls the khudi. The khudi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at this point, this is the 10th year of prophethood of Mi'raj, after all the pain and suffering that he's gone through, all the sacrifice that he's given, is so developed that even in the presence of the Almighty, it is so balanced that it does not swerve, i.e. it's not so weak that it's overwhelmed. And who's he with in conversation with or in communication? Allah Himself. Right? So his individuality is such that it can sustain that encounter. Yet it wasn't so that it looked to dominate or put down or blaspheme or go out of boundaries. It had that humility at the same time. So from there, Allama's conception, when Iqbal talks about what a mu'min or a believer should aim for, it is not fana fillah. It is not losing yourself in Allah. It is baqa billah. It is you looking to establish yourself, your own khudi, your own individuality with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Amazing.
Wow,
wonderful. Thank you very much for being with us. And inshallah, in days to come, we'll definitely ask him how do we actually do that to our personality.
I'll tell you when I find out.
Yes.
So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because we are heading out to a very short break. Yesterday we were, speaking about foods that we should have at Sehri. And they apparently helped a lot of people. And you have been asking what should we be having for Iftari. So after we come back, that is what we're talking about. Stay tuned. Good morning.
Badshai Mosque or the Royal Mosque in Lahore, commissioned by the 6th Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in 1671 and completed in 1673, is the second largest mosque in Pakistan and South Asia and the 5th largest mosque in the world. Epitomizing the beauty, passion and grandeur of the Mughal era. It is Lahore's most famous landmark and a major tourist attraction. Capable of accommodating 5,000 worshippers in its main prayer hall and a further 95,000 in its courtyard, it remains the largest mosque in the world. From 1673 to 1986, a period of 313 years, when overtaken in size by the completion of the Faisal Mosque in Islamabad. Today, it remains the second largest mosque in Pakistan and South Asia and the 5th largest mosque in the world after Masjid al-Haram, Grand Mosque of Mecca, and Al-Masjid al-Nabwi, Prophet's Mosque in Medina. The Hassan II Mosque in Casablanca and the Faisal Mosque in Islamabad. To appreciate its large size, the 4 minarets of the Badshai Mosque are 13.9 feet, 4.2 meters taller than those of the Taj Mahal, and the main platform of the Taj Mahal can fit inside the 278,784 square feet courtyard of the Badshai Mosque, which is the largest mosque courtyard in the world. Architectural
Welcome back to World This Morning with Shahzad Khan and Shahzad Hashmi, ladies and gentlemen. I sound super energetic because I am very shortly going to learn about what I'm going to have for Iftari. What about you? What do you usually have, though?
Well, my household actually is...
Other than pakora, don't say pakora.
A lot of variety to share. I mean, for example, my father is the type of person who's actually going to have a few dates, have a glass of water and then wait for the dinner. Whereas, us siblings, we never wait for the dinner. In fact, we do not want to have dinner if we have eaten once for Iftar as well. Yeah. And that too is obviously, if you want me to count on fingers, dahi balle. And then there's khajure, obviously. Then there's pakode, bangan ke pakode. And
yeah,
then,
all sorts of pakode.
Yeah, and then there are onion rings as well. And then there's roux afza. And then there's tang. Sorry for the marketing, but she asked me this question as well. There are cookies. And then there's something sweet. And then there's something sour. There's samosa. There's pretty much everything, alhamdulillah. Thank you, Allah. I just realized, yes.
Makes me miss Iftari at my home because lately, alhamdulillah for everything, but I'm having like a very sad Iftari at hostel's mess. Imagine what else could it be? Yeah. It's like literally just 2 pakoras in every plate with juice, whatever juice it is, with just a bit of fruit chaat. That is because we have a proper dinner afterwards, which I don't like doing, right? I mean, it's very much like yours. I mean, I want to have like a super fancy
eat it once, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I want to have it once and for all, a lot of it.
And then there's one person, ladies and gentlemen, holding their thoughts at the back of their head because we haven't introduced her so far. So, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about it, we've definitely joined by our lifestyle coach and expert. She's none other than Miss Lubna Khan Faraz. Hello, assalamu alaikum, welcome back.
Hello, such lovely thoughts that I have so much to talk about.
So yeah, well, what about Iftar at your place? What do you guys eat?
So there's a lot of things at my house, but what do I eat is a different question. What I make sure my husband eats is a different question.
Okay.
So no, of course there's everything during Iftar because our cultural food is like, there's samosas, there's pakore, there's
spring rolls, jalebi,
everything in there. But I mean, what I'm going to be talking about today is, what to do when you see such amazing food on the table.
How to control.
What is self-discipline. What you should have, some strategies that you can do, what different ways you can opt, and what is a good iftar that will help you refuel your body instead of bring you down, make you feel slumpy, put you in itis, and make you all sleepy again, right?
Perfect. Let's get to it.
So first of all, I want to talk about what we do wrong. and what should be done instead.
Okay.
So I want to talk about 4 things. So number 1 thing is that we should be eating a lot of vegetables, and our diet, basically our meals, should be based on protein and vegetable-based stuff. But what we end up doing in Ramadan, and even more than we normally do, is make it all carb-based. Every single thing we eat is carbs with little to no vegetables. Probably the only vegetables that I see people eating is their potatoes in the samosa or the eggplant or zucchini in the pakoras, right?
Yeah.
But there's nothing else. Whereas in the normal lifestyle of any Muslim, I don't think they're eating pakoras every single day.
Yeah,
I
we don't
think
other
they're
than
eating
Ramzan,
samosas
we
every
don't.
single
Right,
day.
right.
So why do it in Ramadan is my question, because it's so embedded in our culture that it's so hard to take out, right? So, but this is one thing that we're doing wrong, and we need to understand that. Okay,
Right,
one thing is,
okay.
you have to accept it and then understand how to deal with it. So we'll get to the dealing part in a bit.
Okay.
Second thing is that we don't appreciate food, because as soon as the food appears on your table, you're like, give me everything, everything,
Yeah.
everything. I want everything. I want to eat this. I want to eat that. So you don't take time to appreciate the food. Thank Allah, thank you for this food that I have. You just eat so fast, which ends up making you overeat, binge eat, going crazy, feeling bloated, and you just want to sit there for a while, so in a little food coma. So this is another thing we do wrong.
And I even have to open up my belts at times as well. And then, it's not even
Which
then.
is quite common.
Yeah, and even it's not even, at that point of time when the food's right in front of me. So
Okay.
eventually what I do is that if I've had time and I'm at home, so what I'm going to do is that, for example, by 4 or 5-ish, the ladies are actually going to start making Iftari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go count the number of pakoras there are in the hot
How
pot.
many
And then
will you eat?
I'm going to go to
Call
mom,
dibs on them.
and I'm going to be like, oh, don't you think that we're cooking a little lesser pakoras today? And then she's like, okay, once you start eating, we'll figure it out then. Yeah, and then if God forbid, there are no pakoras to eat, dude, you don't know.
Everyone's just
Whoa.
angry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Of course.
Right. So, Lubna, I know you need to move on, but here's my question about the vegetables. So my dad says the same thing. I mean, why don't we have fruits and vegetables on our, a mat?
Yeah.
But my mom's like, pakoda mein hai nahi sabziyan.
Yeah.
you get it?
Yeah, of
She's
course.
like, I even put anda in it. I even
Yeah.
put XYZ in it.
Everything is in there,
Doesn't
some
that
mixture.
count?
Well, the thing is, yes, it does count, but the problem is that not all calories are the same.
Okay.
Not all fats are the same. Not all carbs are the same. So yes, sure, maybe you're having your spinach and everything in your pakora, but hey, look at the fact that it's totally deep fried in a really bad oil, not a
Okay.
nutritious oil,
Yeah,
right? Probably
yeah.
usually like a vegetable oil, like a sunflower oil.
Right.
And then once you deep fry those oils, they're pretty much toxic to your health, bad for your cholesterol, bad for your health overall, because they cause inflammation in our arteries and everything like that. So that's the problem with it. So
Let
yes,
alone
you're
reusing
eating
them.
it, but which was my next point, our food processing things, the way we eat food, the way we process it is different. Right, so instead of where you could be baking it, sautéing it, maybe cooking the conventional way that we do in like a little handi or like a little pan, we're deep frying, we're frying everything, we're frying literally everything possible, right?
Yeah.
So which is another thing we end up doing wrong. Whereas on your normal days, you don't fry everything you eat, right?
Right.
On your normal, when you're having normal dinner. These are the things that we end up doing wrong. So hey, what should we do right and what should you definitely avoid? So number 1 thing, try to avoid fried foods as much as you can. Now, I know it's
No one's
really
gonna listen
big,
to you about this
Yeah,
one,
no
though.
one. So here's my strategy for this. If you are going to have them, I like to tell everybody, follow the rule of 1.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're gonna have a samosa, try to have 1, right? If you're gonna have a
Okay.
pakora, have 1. So have 1 samosa,
Pakoras
1
are too
pakora.
little to have, yeah. Come on, at least 2.
Fine, 2.
Two,
okay.
yeah, 2, yeah.
So what I basically mean to say is moderation is key
Right,
here, right?
right.
So don't have like 5 pakoras on your plate or like make a huge mountain of samosas and pakoras and all these things, spring rolls and all of that. So have it in moderation.
Okay.
If you're having small amounts, it's fine. Like you don't eat these things every day, like we just figured out. It is just the month of Ramadan, and we're all happy and excited about the cultural foods that we have. So eat in moderation. Portion control is key here.
Okay.
And like here's my message to the mothers and fathers that cook, or even the girls and guys that cook. If you love your fried foods, we talked about an air fryer, try to invest in that. And hey, you can always try to bake your food. You can always try to steam your food.
Yeah.
If you love samosas and spring rolls, if not the pakoras, then at least you can bake, or and then you can bake them, and to make them extra crispy, you can just lightly pan fry them.
Okay.
To give it that brown and crispy texture. So there are ways to go around it and still enjoy the food that you so-called love, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
these are some things you can do. Added sugar is so key here. Like you said, all these beautiful sweetened colored drinks that we have, they're actually not good for us because, hey, they're going to put your blood sugar on a little spike there, You're going to gain all this energy, then all of a sudden the sugar is absorbed by your body and you're like, oh my God, I feel so sluggish. I don't know what to do. My energy's gone again. You're grumpy again. You're not able to pray properly, and then you're just annoyed throughout your day. And that's not how it's supposed to be. To try as much as you can. If you like to sweeten your drinks, sweeten your drink, but use honey maybe. Use stevia drops maybe. There are other alternatives that you can do, and honey is so easily available. Why aren't we using that?
Everyone has them.
Yeah, and it's so important to use honey because people that have allergies, here's an important thing, right? If you use honey that is based in your region, it can help you get rid of allergies. This is so important for children as well, babies as well, adults too. So if you have pollen allergies and you intake raw honey, it's good because you're taking in that bee pollen. Yeah. So your body's learning to get immune to that.
Okay.
So it's really important. So hey, take a tablespoon of honey if you're craving something sweet instead of having that, beautiful drink that might be sitting on your table. Right?
All right. So,
drink.
So yesterday, Lubna, you said that you after just having a little bit of tari, you want to work out and then get back to dinner. Yeah. Which makes me believe that you like the idea of having a small iftari and then having a proper fancy dinner, like some parents suggest, but kids never listen to because there's so much. So is that the healthy option?
This is what I call the healthiest and easiest option, right? So what you can do is, what I like to do is make a really big hearty soup. So there is something that I am eating after breaking my fast. So I'll have a nice big glass of water with some lemon and honey in there, have my dates, and I'll have a soup. So in that soup, now soup people think, oh my God, it's just water and cabbage in there, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be like that. You can make, broccoli and cheddar soups. You can make tomato and bell pepper soup. There's so many great recipes out there where you can make a nice hearty soup. It doesn't have to be that watery, ugly smelling soup that you kind of imagine in your head. It can be something really, really tasty. Even lentils. Lentils can make a really nice, great soup as well. So maybe what I personally like to do is have a big bowl of soup, have my dates, have my water, go and work out, come back and have a nice meal. Now in my meal, what I like to have is maybe a nice big vegetable curry. So, I'll have potatoes, I'll have zucchini, I'll have carrots, you can have capsicums, you can have whatever you like. Whatever basically I have in my fridge, I just throw it together. Whatever you have on hand. You don't need to make a crazy recipe here. Like I said, simplify things for yourself in Ramadan, don't complicate it, right? Throw those all veggies together, then maybe I'll have a chicken breast, have my protein in there as well. I'll make after working out, I like to have a really nice big thick smoothie as well. So I'll get my fiber from there. I'll add some zucchini in my smoothie as well. So whatever veggies I'm not eating or I like to eat, I'll add it in my smoothie, And you can hide those flavors. So have a smoothie after that, then have your meal. Again, you can have brown rice, you can have lentils, you can have chickpeas curry, right? That we all love. So you can have those great options. And then after that, once you're done your dinner and you're done your prayers and all of that, and you still like to snack on things, fruits are a great option. We were talking about dehydration. We forget that there's so much water content in fruits and vegetables as well. So hey, cut up some cucumber sticks and have it with some hummus. Try different things. Why do we always just like to go towards the conventional thinking? If it's a salad, it's only going to be cucumber and onions and tomatoes. Hey, make a really nice big salad with some strawberries and spinach and some other greens, whatever you have in your fridge.
We're still fasting if you're forgetting.
Yeah,
right?
So tempting to even
I'm
listen
getting
to
you
it.
ready for iftar, okay? So you can prep it. That's the key about having a good iftar. Prep your things and get everybody involved.
Very nice. Okay, so now very quickly, are you attending personal questions? Because one of my producer has actually asked me 6 questions and I'm going to jot down 2. And ask for him.
Of course.
So first things first, he wants to know the difference between butter and margarine and which one's better to have. And then the second thing was, how can we make a mint margarita at home with all of those ingredients in which are actually healthy for us?
So butter and margarine, now there's a very big difference here. Now there are good fats and bad fats like I was mentioning. So you want to avoid saturated and trans fat. So whenever you go and buy your food or your packaged food and stuff like that, try to read the label, learn to read the label. It's so important so you can spot what's good for you and what's bad for you. So you want to avoid that. Now in margarine, because it's so processed, there is a lot of saturated fat. And whereas in butter, you'll find unsaturated fat more. So it's better for you. So what I always say, the rule of thumb is try to go as much natural and whole as you can. So you want to go towards a warrior diet, what our ancestors used to have. There was no such thing as margarine back in the day. So why do we have it now? It's man-made. So avoid that. Go back to what used to be, makhan. You know what I mean? So basically, that's why butter is better for you, and margarine is, a man-made thing.
And now moving on to mint margarita.
Mint margarita. So Yes, you gotta avoid the sugar. If you like to sweeten your drinks, use honey. I like to use mint. You can use crushed ice. You can use some lemon juice. You can, and I just like to, if I'm adding in water, I like to infuse it with some ginger, which is really good for your body, especially if you're fasting in there. And infusing basically means, say you leave a jug of water with some ginger slices in there and leave it in there. So you don't get that strong taste, but you get that little zest. And that's pretty much all you have to do. Mint margarita is not hard at all. It's just basically mint and a syrup that's mixed in, which you can just make with honey as well.
Okay.
Amazing.
So that's what
I think that's great. Thank you very much, Lubna, for being with us. It's always wonderful to ask you some different questions about what kind of nutrition we actually need for our body. But ladies and gentlemen, please be very careful, because every different person or every individual's needs are going to vary from any other individual. So you gotta probably be consulting your lifestyle coach as well.
Like we did ours.
Yes, so like we did ours.
Always consult your doctor before you start anything. I always recommend that. Don't just Google information and say, oh, I'm going to follow this diet. Because there are so many adults that are on cholesterol medication or heart medication and stuff like that. And sometimes when you intake certain fruits and even vegetables, it might conflict with your medication. Like, say, grapefruit is really good for you. But if you're a heart patient taking some medication, that might conflict with your medication, right? So you really want to consult your doctor. Hey, it's great to have information, but always consult your doctor.
Cross-check.
Yeah, cross-check everything, that I'm going to have this diet, I'm going to start keto, I'm going to start this, that. Consult your doctor first.
Thank you so much for saying that. So ladies and gentlemen, I feel like I'm going to side with Lubna when she said to avoid oily foods at Iftari especially. I mean, look at it. If your kid or if your husband or anyone that you know comes home from like a long day where he worked all day and didn't eat and anything, you're not going to offer them snacks, right? You're going to offer them something healthy. That's what you're doing while you're fasting. So no oily foods. Not that I'm going to stand by it. I'm pretty sure I'll have pakoras today as well, but we'll try. We'll try not to.
Yeah, but I think that, Shiza had no other choice other than siding with Lubna, because, she's actually by herself and living in a hostel where there's only 2 pakoras in the plate, and then there's just a little bit of curry.
Really?
Control the portion. And also, sorry, I forgot to
sure.
totally mention that if you are at an iftar party and you don't know what to do, the best things to have are fruit chaat and chana chaat, right? So go towards more of those options and try to stay away from the oily food.
All right, and then at the same time, since we have actually said our goodbyes, so we actually have to do your mic out as well. So now, it took us a minute to get your audio back in. But it's wonderful. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have no control over yourself, please make sure to move into a hostel. And yes, follow the diet.
That's been working for me.
I think that's what it is. But do write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of
Well This Morning.
On Twitter.
Well This Morning without a G.
On Daily Motion and YouTube.
Also Well This Morning.
And the fabulous repeat is going to be at
11 p.m. tonight.
Till the next time, 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.
morning.
Take care.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful having you.